All right, let's get right into it. We hear a lot of talk about the ultra-wealthy paying their fair share in taxes. But what if the whole system is set up so that their fair share is, well, sometimes nothing at all?
I mean, it sounds impossible, right? But this is a real finding, pulled from a huge ProPublica investigation into secret IRS records. For most of us, tax bills are just a fact of life. But for a handful of people at the very top, a $0 tax bill is a totally legal reality. So the question is, how do they do it?
And just look at these examples. We're not talking about hypotheticals here. In 2007 and 2011, Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon, paid absolutely nothing in federal income taxes. In 2018, Elon Musk managed to do the exact same thing. To figure out how this works, we have to completely change the way we think about the word income.
And that really gets us to the heart of the matter, to the billionaire's playbook. It all comes down to one fundamental idea. The tax code treats the money you earn very differently from the wealth you own. So you can basically see two different worlds on this slide. On the left, that's life for most people. You get a paycheck, and that salary gets taxed. Straightforward. But on the right, that's the world of the ultra-wealthy. Their fortunes don't really come from a paycheck. They come from their assets, stocks, real estate, you name it, exploding in value. And here's the kicker. Under US law, that growth, even if it's billions of dollars, isn't considered taxable income unless they actually sell the asset. And the big secret? They almost never sell.
To really show what was going on, ProPublica actually had to invent a new way of measuring this. They called it the true tax rate. See, instead of just looking at the tax paid on reported income, which can be tiny, this metric compares the tax paid to how much their wealth actually grew that year. It gives you a much more honest picture.
And once you start using that true tax rate, you get numbers that look like this. 0.1%.
So what does that number mean? That was the true tax rate for Warren Buffett, who, by the way, has argued for higher taxes on the rich over a 5-year period. His wealth shot up by more than $24 billion, but he only paid about $24 million in taxes. To put that in perspective, that's like paying 10 cents in tax for every $100 you make.
So if you're not selling your assets, how do you pay for, a billionaire lifestyle? Well, you follow a strategy that insiders call buy, borrow, die. It's pretty simple. Step 1, buy or accumulate assets that grow in value, like stocks. Step 2, instead of selling those stocks for cash, you just borrow against them. Banks will literally line up to give you huge loans at super low interest rates with your stock portfolio as collateral. And the most important part, a loan is not income, so it isn't taxed. And the final step? Die. Seriously. When you die, your heirs get the assets, and because of something called the step up in basis, all those years of untaxed gains just get wiped clean from a tax perspective. And then the whole cycle can just start over.
Okay, so that's the big picture strategy. Now let's zoom in and look at a really specific and pretty controversial tool that's used in the world of high finance. We're going to talk about something called carried interest.
And to do this, we're going to look at this incredible 2024 report from the Center for the Analysis of Taxation, or CENTAX. They got access to anonymous tax data that gave them this never-before-seen peek behind the curtain at who exactly is benefiting from this.
So, first off, what is carried interest? You can think of it as a kind of performance bonus for private equity managers. It's a slice of the profits they make for their investors. But here is the multi-million-dollar twist. Even though it's basically a bonus for doing your job well, the tax system treats it like a capital gain, not like regular income.
And this is why that matters so much. In the UK, where this study was done, the top rate for income tax is 47%. The tax on carried interest, just 28%. That is a gigantic tax discount for some of the highest paid people in the entire country.
So who are these people who benefit from this special treatment? Well, the data paints a crystal clear picture of a very small and very exclusive club.
First of all, it is overwhelmingly men. And it's not even close. Men don't just make up most of the recipients, they take home an incredible 96% of the total value of all the carried interest.
It's also packed into one tiny geographic area. A whopping 88% of all this money goes to people living in London and the Southeast. In fact, get this, people in the single London borough of Kensington get more carried interest than the entire rest of the UK combined.
But the concentration gets even more wild. Let's just look at a couple of numbers. First, remember this one, 30.
And now, this one, £1 billion.
Now, let's put those two together. In a single year, 2023, just 30 people received £1 billion.
That's a quarter of all the carried interest paid out in the entire country. That's an average of more than £33 million each.
So, what's the real-world impact of all this? Let's tie this specific loophole back to our main theme and see what it actually means for tax rates.
This is maybe the most important finding in the whole report. They compared the effective tax rate of carry recipients to other top earners in finance, people also making over £2 million a year. And look at that gap. The carry recipients pay a tax rate that's about 10 percentage points lower, and that difference is almost entirely because of this special tax treatment.
And that really is the key takeaway here. Whether we're talking about the big buy, borrow, die strategy or a niche loophole like carried interest, the story is ultimately the same. Our tax systems are built to tax the money we earn from work, while the wealth people own is allowed to grow and be used, often without ever being taxed at all.
You know, the people at the top are perfectly aware of how this works. As Warren Buffett famously said in an interview once, there's been class warfare going on for the last 20 years, and my class has won. When you look at the data, it's pretty hard to argue with him.